Good morning. Thanks for joining again. Today, I want to talk to you about something that all of us struggle with, including myself. We're all human. And the reason I'm able to bring these topics to you is because at some point I've experienced them in my own life or through the experiences of others because of the work I do. Today, I want to talk to you about identifying your kryptonite. Kryptonite, if you're familiar with Superman, Kal-El, or Clark Kent, is a very interesting character. Even though it's supposed to be nonfiction, he's very interesting because he represents the ability to be powerful or a powerful being, and yet try to manage that power in the vessel of a human being or the appearance of a human being. Many of us struggle with identifying not just our strengths, but our weaknesses. And even more so, we struggle with accepting those weaknesses. So today I want to talk about the importance of identifying your kryptonite and using that to your advantage. I mentioned Khalil, I mentioned, Superman. That's just one example of bringing your weaknesses and strengths together and having them work for you. Another example, I don't know if you've ever watched the movie 8 Mile with Eminem, the music, star and artist, but in that movie, Eminem displayed totally what I'm talking about. He was able to capitalize on both his strengths and weaknesses and use them to his advantage to win a battle. How did he do that? He identified that these are the things that he may have ignored, or even though he had knowledge of, that somebody else would be able to use those things against him. So instead of allowing his opponent to say, hey, you lived in a trailer, hey, your mom was a drug addict or alcoholic, he came out and he said those things preemptively. So it took his opponent off guard because that's all the material he had. The material that he possessed was understanding Eminem's weaknesses and the things that Eminem himself may not have portrayed as strengths to use it against him. Does that sound familiar? Does that sound like in your relationship or in your personal life as an individual that you're constantly bombarded with people reminding you of your past mistakes, your past indiscretions, things that you're doing on a daily basis? They have an issue with you and the things that they consider your weaknesses, or they see things in you that are really not weaknesses, but a work in progress, and they capitalize on that and they further make you weak, or you further allow them to make you weak, even a better statement. So let's talk about that, right? So I made some notes because I have a client that told me, Ingrid, you have great content, but sometimes you're all over the place. I'm trying to not be all over the place in this video because I want you to get this, because identifying your kryptonite is important. Understanding your weaknesses, not just your strengths, is not only strategic, but it makes absolute sense if you're going to be successful in your endeavors or what you think success is to you. So one of the first things I said here is, if you can identify your weaknesses and you can identify your kryptonite, you can have more effective communication with someone else. For example, if your partner or if your family or if a significant other or if your friends are telling you about yourself and you keep on experiencing this pain and hurt because what they're telling you is pretty much highlighting your deficiencies or your weaknesses or parts of your character that you haven't been able to master or deal with, then it becomes a sore subject, right? It's always like every time they do that, it's like just putting salt on the wound. Every time they say, hey, you know what? You're not disciplined. You're lazy. You haven't done this. In the past, you weren't able to do this. All of that makes you feel vulnerable. And when you feel vulnerable, then you get defensive. And when you get defensive, it's game over for somebody, even if it's not for you, because then the communication then gets skewed and then you both cannot communicate effectively, because some people have mastered the art. They are masters at throwing your dirt at you to throw you off their scent or to even make you feel less than. Yeah, it's emotionally abusive sometimes, or other times it's just so that they cannot deal with their own reality or take responsibility for their part. And then there are other times they're telling you these things because they sincerely want to hurt you. And how best to hurt you, but to repeat the things that keep on triggering you. If somebody tells me I'm fat, is that going to keep on triggering me? No, because at some point in my life, I would have recognized that I am and that I have an issue with it and I'm working through it. But for some other people who have not dealt with the issue of their weight or accepting their body types, then someone saying this in any context within a communication will just trigger them. So containing your kryptonite or identifying your kryptonite can help you to foster better communication. It also helps you to accept the things that you cannot accept. You know, the serenity prayer, Lord, grant me the serenity to accept those things I can, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. That will be your life. You'll be able to recognize your triggers if you are able to accept those things that make you vulnerable, if you understand your kryptonite. So understanding what triggers you, understanding how you feel about the things that you have not been able to address as yet, helps you to further communicate with that person, because it's like, okay, I know these things about me. I understand who I am. I'm a work in progress. What else do you have? Why don't we really talk about the issue at hand instead of making it about me? That's a conversation that can happen if you don't go to the defensiveness and the stonewalling and all that stuff because you're reacting and responding to criticism. Another thing is creating self-control and discipline within yourself. How often, I mean, it's not easy. This human journey is not an easy journey. It is not easy for me. It's not easy for anyone. We show up here every day, and sometimes it seems like Groundhog Day all over again. And then for other days, it's a struggle. And for other days, you push through. But nonetheless, the journey is not riddled with struggle, and it's not riddled with challenges. But in the midst of dealing with those challenges and struggles, should you also have to deal with a lack of self-control? Self-control in this instance being controlling your response and your reaction to the person who's trying to use your kryptonite against you and who's trying to immobilize you with that same said kryptonite. If you have self-control, and self-control is like this, right? You understand yourself, you understand your triggers, you understand why you're responding or reacting a certain way, because you understand that the wound that keeps on coming up and that people keep on throwing at you, or the people keep on excavating, is one that has not healed. That allows you to dictate the amount of control you have in that situation. Why respond or react to something if you've already controlled the very thing that is being presented? So self-control and discipline is something that can come if you recognize, if you not only recognize your kryptonite, but you're able to control how it's used against you. The last thing is, I said, better communication, self-control and discipline, acceptance and peace within and without. I try to seek peace. You know, the word says seek peace and pursue it. I was raised in a chaotic environment. I'm not saying that I didn't create some of the chaos for myself, but I was raised in a chaotic environment, and I decided a long time ago that I would choose not to engage in chaos. I have a video in here that talks about disengaging in chaos. I have a video on here that also talks about your reaction and your response to things. If I choose to respond and continually choose to respond and react a certain way, then I know that the chaos has power over me, that I don't have power over it. Let me say that again. If my response and my reaction continually are the same thing to the same prompts or the same triggers, that's telling me something about myself, not about the other person that is throwing the stones or the other person that's coming for me. Like we say in today's society, they're coming for you. It is all about the work that I have not yet done on myself and the work that needs to be done within me. One of the things that I decided in order to facilitate that work is to not respond or not react, but more importantly, I want peace. I want peace more than anything else. I want to be at peace. I don't want to constantly be wrapped up in chaos. You know, sometimes I hear people talking and they talk about is a continuous cycle of chaos. It's like they can't disengage. It's like, you know, regardless of what they're talking about, they cannot find the source of the chaos. And usually the source is obviously within yourself. If you can contain the source of chaos within yourself and disengage, you will learn how to disengage from the chaos without, and you will be able to control how the kryptonite is used against you. So let's recap. So I talked about the value of understanding your areas of weakness and challenge. I talked about understanding yourself and how, you know, it helps you to better understand others, because I've talked about this in all my videos. The key is you. If you understand who you are, my mother said it before she died. If you know the devil you live with and you understand that devil, it makes it easier to live with them as a companion. I don't want to live with any devil, just FYI, but that's just an analogy. If you can understand yourself, it helps you and puts you in a better position to be able to understand the other person you're dealing with. The other thing is kryptonite doesn't have to make you weak. You can build up a tolerance to it. You don't have to react or respond to kryptonite. It doesn't have to make you weak. Superman, in one episode, I don't remember because I'm not great at those kind of details, but in one episode I remember Superman, they had the black kryptonite, not the other normal kryptonite, the green one, and it literally immobilized him. But the long and short of it is he found a way around that immobilization. He found a way to overcome the kryptonite. He found a way to not be limited by the kryptonite. That's what we are constantly doing in this round. In this round, we are constantly seeking to not be immobilized by other people's threats, other people's insults, other people's criticisms, other people's responses to us in that try to make us feel less than, other people's emotional abuse, whether it's trying to control us and all that stuff. If you understand yourself, if you understand your kryptonite, it is almost next to impossible for all those things to happen, because at some point you will stop engaging. At some point you will choose to disengage. And the reason you will disengage is because you want to be at peace. You no longer want to be affected by others. I read it somewhere, and I have to say I read it somewhere because it's not something that's unique to me. There's nothing new under the sun. There's no originality. Everything that has happened before somebody has thought about. So I'm going to say this to you. Unless you choose to acknowledge your role in any kind of interaction, the interaction is one that will take control over you. Unless you recognize your power, unless you recognize your ability to be the change agent in your own life, then the kryptonite will continuously be used against you. My name is Ingrid Felton. As always, thank you for visiting my YouTube channel. Thank you for liking the videos. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for telling other people about what I'm trying to do here and spreading the good news. And continue to support me, because that's the reason I show up here, because of the subscriptions and because you guys tell me that I'm doing something right. And let me leave you with this lasting thought, okay? Everything takes time. Everything requires time. And if you choose how you use your time, then you will glean the reward of that time. Again, have a great day. Bye.